Hello, my friends. Happy May 11th. It is, in fact, a beautiful day here in Maine. We're very excited about it. My delightful daughter is 9 years old today. So we are very excited. She's a little sad because, coronavirus birthdays, not a whole lot of fun. But the carrot cake my kid Ben made yesterday was super, super good. And speaking of such things, today is the day we talk about weight. It's Monday, and in our final Monday conversation, I want to talk about what the after action process looks like. Okay. And how we set the stage for iterative change when it comes to our weight. Okay. Now, this is probably the biggest reason most um, most diets fail, right? Is because when you eat off what you said you were going to eat, then you beat the tar out of yourself and you feel terrible, which leads you to actually um, eating more off protocol. Okay, so why don't we not do it that way? Okay, I want you to open yourself up to the possibility that you are not going to beat yourself up to losing weight. Okay, I started my weight loss journey 2 years ago and 85 pounds ago. Like I was looking for before and after pictures, and then I had a couple other pictures come up, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't realize that's what I looked like. And I didn't feel bad about I never lost weight because of like body dysmorphia. I honestly truly feel like I look mostly the same now as I did 2 years ago. Which is a little funny because I really don't but when I'm in my everydayness, when I'm not looking at pictures or whatever, and I'm just looking in the mirror, I don't really think I look all the same, all that much different. And so, but the after action process, okay, and not beating the stuffing out of yourself when it comes to weight is, I mean, it's really not that complicated, guys. It really, really isn't, okay? Because but it's based on all the work that we've done for the past 5 weeks. Okay, you got to start to tell yourself the truth of what it is that you weigh if you want to weigh something different. Okay, that's really, you got to tell yourself the truth about that. Right, and you got to think all your thoughts about it, and then feel all your feelings, and then have the capacity to have the body that you have. Right? And then you got to figure out what you want. Do you want to lose weight? It's funny. I was talking with my husband, I think this morning, about this, and I was talking about starting from why. Like, why do you want to do it? Like, guys, I kid you not, the reason I wanted to lose weight was to see if I could. I wanted to see if I could just use that to manage my mind, to make a difference in my life about something that took up a lot of mental energy. I never in my whole entire life decided I wanted to lose weight so I would look good in a bikini. Because I could lose all the weight in the world, I will never put on a bikini. And it's partially because of modesty and mostly because of sunburn. Like, I'm so white, I'm a pale shade of blue. It takes me 10 minutes to burn when I go outside. And I've like, it's May in Maine, and I could go outside, and if I don't have sunscreen on, I'll get a sunburn. It won't be a bad sunburn, but my DNA doesn't know the difference between bad and not bad, right? And so your why for why you're losing weight, guys, it doesn't have to be profound. You know, I wanted to see what would happen. And for most people, that is probably not a compelling enough reason. Okay, if you are waiting to lose weight or quit drinking or go all in on your business or go all in on making more money or spending less money, please, please, please stop waiting for stars and lightning to strike and booms and giant revelations. Doesn't happen. Never happens that way. Doesn't happen for any of my friends, and it's not going to happen for you. Decide what's a good enough reason why today and quit deciding. Right? I decided that seeing what would happen was a good enough reason to lose weight. Right? When I decided to quit drinking, I decided that I'd have all the alcohol I ever needed in my whole life. and I stopped deciding that I needed more alcohol in my life. The end. The only reason I think about alcohol is because I teach people stop over drinking. It's the only reason I think about alcohol. I have no desire for it. I'm really kind of bummed. I'm like losing my desire for bread, and I love bread. Except like my body doesn't really love it. My brain loves it. It feels super good, but I'm really losing my desire for bread. And that all of that, all right, is incredibly important to understand because it gets us to where we are and how this is a cycle. So we look at what happened, okay? And when we tell ourselves what happened, it is actually a reflection of the work we did in the first week, which is telling ourselves the truth. Okay? And there are lots of ways to look at what happened. I recommend you look at the results. Okay? If you have embarked on a weight loss journey and your scale is higher and not lower, all right, then it's potentially time to think about that and fix something and do something different. But I want you to think about there are only 3 questions when we're talking about what happened. Well, I suppose 4. What's the numbers? Like, what can you quantify? Okay, what can you quantify? What happened and what can you quantify? It's the first thing to ask yourself. The next thing to ask yourself is, okay, what went right? It's very easy for us to say what went wrong, all right? But in order to know what went right, you have to be paying a whole lot of attention to your day, all right? I've learned how to do this. I do this at night. I do a check-in every day. I don't do it really about my weight, but I do it about my business. Okay, and I do a check-in at night. All right, on where my brain is. This is a learned and learnable skill. And you got to learn the skill of asking what went right first. It's so easy to say what went wrong. The nattering nabobs of negativity back here, your inner critic or whatever, always ready, willing, and able to offer an opinion. Okay, it's always going to be able, like, there to offer an opinion to you, but that's not what we need, right? Let's focus on what went right. If you read my emails last week, it was all about what went right. It's all about delivering what went right, and some of you got that email again today. Like, where do we go from there, right? Think about what went right. So it's the middle of my day here, and I've already had a ton of things go right. I had amazing self-coaching. I created a super good intentional thought for the week. So I do Monday morning check-in, and I created a super intentional thought for the week around neutrality of money, which I'm super excited about. I had an amazing coaching call. Okay, I did some amazing self-coaching. I showed up to some emails really without urgency and in intention, which for me, holy bananas, major change. All that stuff has gone super, super right. Okay. And I can take a pause in the middle of my day and I can think about what went right. And when I think about what went right, it feels really good. Like you can hear the shift in my energy, right? Okay. And then I say, only then do I say, okay, what went wrong? So let me think about my day this morning about what went wrong with my morning. I didn't talk about my kids much, but I did really do some good homeschooling with my son. And so I'm really excited about that. But I got kind of short with my other son. And I was in mind drama about an email for about a half an hour before I like pulled myself out of it. And that was not on my scheduled time. So I schedule my time a lot, right? I like schedule my life in like 20-minute to half-hour chunks. And I did stuff off of my time schedule. So that is what went wrong. And then the question is this afternoon, what am I going to do differently? What am I going to do differently? And one of the things that I'm going to do differently is I'm actually going to schedule some time to feel my feelings. I don't normally have to do this, but I'm like in turmoil over something. And I'm going to spend some time before I get on a call later this afternoon to be like, okay, what are my negative feelings? Those of you who came from the post about my story and the 7 steps to listen to the universe, of course, step number 1 is fall into your negative emotions. Don't be afraid of them and just understand what your negative emotions are doing. Okay. How does that tie to weight and weight loss? I am not kidding you. My resistance is stored as fat on my thighs. which I know sounds super weird, but I really, I mean, I'm guys, I'm a doctor, right? Fat is neuroendocrine system. It is it has neurologic capabilities. All your fat, the fat that like surrounds your innards, like your omental fat, we call it, and then your cutaneous fat, which is the fat that's like underneath your thighs. And your shape is dependent upon which one you have a lot more of. Some people have a lot more omental fat and fat in their body cavity, and carry their fat in their body cavity, and other people carry it not in their body cavity. Okay, and there are lots of things you can find out about which ones are better for you. Okay, but if you're interested in how fat is a neuroendocrine system and you are looking for more information on that, I very, very much recommend the book The Secret Life of Fat. It is a biochemistry heavy book. So, unless you took biochemistry or you have a really good understanding or are willing to like kind of dive into it and ask questions, it's kind of a complicated book. But I read that book and I was like, oh, and how is this important? Well, what it means is when I'm talking about what am I going to do differently, my weight loss journey is entirely dependent on whether or not I'm going to feel my feelings. And when I'm in resistance about feeling my feelings, and when you're in resistance about feeling your feelings, we do kind of tend to eat our feelings, and our body reacts differently to that. So, how do I know this? Because I've spent 2 years learning how to feel my feelings, and I have lost 85 pounds. Okay, this is what works for me. This is what really, really works for me. Okay. What works? What works for me is writing down what I'm going to eat and eating only that. And when I don't eat that, I don't beat myself up. I say, huh, I wonder what happened. And I come at it from a space of curiosity. How could you learn to come at your food from a space of curiosity? What do you feel like? Like my next frontier, if you will, around food is really paying a whole lot of attention to how my stomach feels when I eat, because I think my stomach feels a certain way. Like I was eating Mother's Day brunch yesterday, and in the middle of it, I was like, and I'm done. I'm so done. I feel really kind of gross. I'm going to stop eating right now. But it was really, really hard because the food was really good and I wanted to want it, and I didn't want it. And when I talk about being empowered to sit in fear and discomfort and failure, are you empowered in your weight loss journey to sit in fear and discomfort and failure and listen to your body? You've probably spent so much time tuning out your body that you're going to have to learn to listen to your body first. Okay. And all of these things get parallel processed, right? But you're going to have to listen to your body first. And you're going to have to like learn to you're going to have to learn what like it feels to feel bad, because we resist that. Like in all the areas that we talk about, we resist the feeling bad. And all of the change comes when you lean in to feeling badly. When you lean into feeling bad. It's incredibly important to learn how to do that and to trust the process of doing that, and to know that feeling bad isn't going to kill you. Okay. So if you're like a binge eater and you binge eat in order to resist your own feelings, that was really kind of never one of the things I did. But I know a lot of people who do it. I binge work to resist my own feelings. And like there like tuning into what happened while you were eating, okay, after you were eating, okay, and like well after, like what happened, what was going right while you were binge eating or eating off protocol or whatever. A lot of the times is the food tasted wicked good, and that feels really good. What if you were honest with yourself in your time frame about what was going right while you were binge eating, or eating off protocol, or whatever you want to call it, okay? And then you gave equal airtime to what was going right for you at that point. Because you wouldn't do it unless it served you on some level, and just be honest about how it serves you. Okay. I was very afraid, and I carried all of that extra weight because I was very afraid, and that fear really did serve me until it stopped serving me. But you can't even recognize that until you allow yourself to understand, even when things are going wrong. okay, or quote wrong, you can understand what's right about this situation. How are things happening for me, even in the middle of binge eating or binge drinking or whatever? How is this exactly right? In the most painful things that can happen to you. Take some effort. Doesn't I'm This is not a recipe for it being easy, guys. But it is a recipe for living in possibility and leading yourself and being in intention and being the person the universe is calling you to be. And if we're talking about something as prosaic as losing weight, it's a recipe for losing weight. Feeling all of your feelings, the positive ones and the negative ones, right? I remember the day where I was like, I don't want cream in my coffee anymore. Okay. I am somebody who, like, I remember taking sugar out of my coffee, and that happened when I was pregnant with the first kid I got to keep. So that's Zachary. Um, and I was so sick, and I stopped eating sweet things like while I was pregnant with Zachary. Oh my God. And there's still some things I can't even smell, like bananas. But not banana chips, weirdly enough. And so I remember I stopped taking I stopped taking sugar in my coffee. Like, I've always put sugar in my coffee, or maple syrup. If you haven't had maple syrup coffee, it's super amazing, unless you don't like sweets. And then it was in the past year where I realized I don't like the taste of cream in my coffee. Unless I'm like watching the cow get milked, then I like the taste. But I don't, there's something about it that, and even raw milk, guys, so please don't tell me this, even raw milk that sat on a shelf for a while, I don't like the taste of it in my coffee. And yes, I am a food safety person who will eat raw milk. Welcome to have that discussion at a later date. But I don't. It's a lot American. And I think it might have happened when I came home. Oh, I know what it was. I came home from Iceland with Ben last year, and I had all of this most delicious, like, the dairy products in Iceland are to die for, right? And then I got home and I was like, oh my God, this tastes awful. And I allowed myself to understand that it tasted awful. Because in your weight loss journey, your tastes are going to change. And the next step in your weight loss journey is allowing for that change and having things that you used to like be something you really don't like. I mean, as part of this, and I think this has happened in the past year, as I have started to recognize this, I have started to recognize that I can't eat Brussels sprouts anymore. All right. So I kind of think of like Brussels sprouts as like, I was introduced to them like 16 or so years ago by my husband. We never ate Brussels sprouts in my house. I think one or both of my parents hate them. Um, and so we never ate them, and then he started making Brussels sprouts and roasted Brussels sprouts with, like, you sit them under the broiler with like garlic and olive oil. It's amazing, right? And then we learned all of these different ways to make Brussels sprouts, but it became very apparent in the fall like something was going deeply wrong with my gastrointestinal system. So I put myself on a low FODMAPs diet. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. FODMAPS. And Brussels sprouts are very high FODMAPs food. And I'm still in the process of learning how many Brussels sprouts I can eat. And it's like two before I have really bad tummy issues. Like, my stomach just really, really hurts. But I had to learn to pay attention to that and to say, okay, is how good. I mean, guys, sometimes we deep fry our Brussels sprouts in beef tallow in the fry. I mean, if you haven't had fry later Brussels sprouts, you're like totally missing something. Okay. But I think I'm pretty much at the point where it's not worth the tummy ache, right? And this process of tuning into your body and tuning into your feelings is exactly that process. It's exactly the process of understanding how you feel when you eat. And if you tune into that, the weight will come off because your body will tell you. It really, really tells you what you do when you don't want. And what you get to do is you get to learn to Believe with no evidence that if you listen to your body, it won't steer you wrong and the weight will come off. We're always looking for evidence. And my weight coach, she tells a story of she believed with no evidence for 6 weeks that if she ate, she did intermittent fasting. She wrote down what she would eat 24 hours ahead of time. She ate all her meals within like an hour. So breakfast didn't take 2 hours, it took 1 hour. And she didn't eat 3 hours apart. And that was all that she did. No flour, no sugar. So she cut out flour and sugar. Intermittent fasting on like, I think it was a 12-8 schedule. Okay. Or no, that's a 14-8 schedule. Okay. So 14 hours of fasting, 8-hour eating window. You only eat for an hour, so no long brunches, and you don't eat for 3 hours in between. Those are all 4 things that she did, and she believed with no evidence for 6 weeks, and nothing changed. The scale didn't go up though, right? The scale didn't go up, and she did her thought downloads. And this never happened to me because when I instituted most of that, the weight just started coming off, which is really unusual because I'm hypothyroid. I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Okay, and it's controlled and all that sort of stuff. But I've lost all of this, so please don't tell me your endocrine system is working against you because I've done all of this within a diagnosis of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Okay, and I'm not on a whole lot, but I'm worse than some and better than others. Okay, and so nothing may change, but this journey is a journey of believing with no evidence that you can do it. And what does it look like to believe with no evidence that you can do this? And maybe it looks like believing that it's okay for your kid to come in and give you a hug during a Facebook Live, right? But maybe it looks like all I'm going to do is get on the scale and do my thought downloads, and I'm going to eat what I said I'm going to eat, and that's it. That's what I'm going to do. And maybe the scale is not going to change, but I promise you, if you feel your own feelings and you notice how you feel when you eat, and then you take it one step further, because there's when you eat, how you feel like when you eat, and then how you feel based on what you eat. And some of us have to have this conversation more than others. Like I have food intolerances, not just like I can't digest Brussels sprouts, like I really can't digest tomatoes. Okay. And that journey is how the weight will come off, I promise. But it may take believing with no evidence. Believing with no evidence that if you increase your steps or that you get on the exercise bike. Like truly, guys, my like basement for being on the exercise bike is 12 minutes. Do I do more than that? Yeah. Did I do more than that for a long time? Hell no. I was like 12 minutes. That's it. Right. And now, I mean, I think I was on the exercise bike, doing my own self-coaching for like an hour. I think it was an hour and 9 minutes this morning. But I'm like doing stuff. Right. And that's and I feel good when I do it, but it's the feeling good in the moment that I have learned how to recognize. It's learning what works in the moment. And then when something isn't working, tuning into yourself and saying, oh, wow, look at that. I'm learning what doesn't work. I'm learning that it doesn't work for me to eat Brussels sprouts. I'm learning that it doesn't, I remember learning it didn't work for me to eat tomatoes. That was fun, right? And your brain will train because your brain is always going away from what's difficult towards what is pleasurable and always what is easy. Okay. And so if you recognize what isn't pleasurable when it comes to food, your body will lead you. Okay. And your body will always, always, always tell you the truth. Your mind will lie to you all the live long day, but your body never will lie to you. But so many of us are like disconnected, like right here. Okay. And we've learned to so distrust our bodies. We've learned so much on how to distrust our bodies, and it can be very, very difficult to relearn how to trust your body. But that is a skill I promise you can develop. If I can develop it, you can develop it. Right? And it's all just about being a beginner. When you ask yourself, when we do AARs, like I really wish I had gotten taught this in the Army. When we do AARs, maybe that's just the beginning of learning, not the end. When you ask yourself what worked, what didn't work, and what am I going to do differently, that is how you create iterative change. When you say, okay, what I'm going to do differently tomorrow is I'm going to, I know this is the first thing I did this with, and it was in my 20s. And I recognized, I think it was the summer of my junior year, I stopped being able to drink caffeinated coffee in the afternoon because I wouldn't fall asleep until like 2 o'clock in the morning. And what do we know about Michelle? Sleep is the most important thing. And that conversation truly started then as a junior in college. Um, because that was because I like sleep. And I noticed on the days where I had coffee in the afternoon, I used to go to Starbucks and I would get a latte, and I would put a couple of packages of sugar in the raw, and I would literally walk around Faneuil Hall. But I wasn't there. It was an internship and I was only there like 3 days a week. And it was very easy to tie together that on the afternoons where I had caffeinated coffee, I didn't sleep. So I started drinking decaf, and lo and behold, I could sleep, and it was amazing. So what are those changes that you can put in? What can you notice? And what can you do differently tomorrow than you did today? And just be a scientist and go after it. Okay, that's how we do everything. That's how we do everything. If you come from curiosity and you think about it, you can do anything that you want in your life, including losing all the weight. And it just comes from knowing what's going right, knowing what's going wrong, and doing something differently, and telling yourself the truth about it. Because remember, guys, truth creates wealth, and that wealth can very much be in your health. I have accrued wealth in my life as part of my losing weight process, and that's a really amazing thing. It's incredible. All right, my friends, that's what we got. We're about to go celebrate a 9-year-old's birthday. I love you all very, very much. And I will see you tomorrow. And we are going to talk about this process when it comes to drinking. And boy, isn't this an interesting conversation when it comes to drinking. All right, I love you all. I'll talk to you tomorrow at noon, remember? So our last conversation about drinking is at noon tomorrow. Bye, guys. I love you.